that's news. Let's now hop over to discussion, where I have two main things to talk about. Sort of two main discussion topics. One is, and this will probably be the title of this video, where I will probably split these up into multiple pieces. Anyways, so the focus is there an art form to making bad films? So the reason that I bring this up is that recently I watched two movies that attempt to go for the whole "it's so bad it's good" idea around things. And I really enjoy those kinds of films that actually pull this off successfully, because I'm a fan. Red Letter Media's Best of the Worst and stuff like that, and there have been some incredibly bad films that are incredibly awesome. Um, give you an example of stuff like Troll 2, which is famous for the line of, "They're eating her! Then they're gonna eat me! Oh my god!" And just have that. Like, there's that. And then there's stuff like Birdemic, which is sort of on the other side of Go Away Chicken. Be gone. Sort of on the other side of things, which I will explain in a second. So, anyways, recently I watched two movies that are under those pretenses. One was, I watched the third installment of the Sharknado trilogy, and I'll get to my opinions on it, which is going to be interesting. And I also watched a movie called Dungeons and Dragons, which is, as you can guess, a adaptation of the classic fantasy board game. So, is there an art form to making bad films? Because I find there's a very stark line, because you can make because a bad film that is so bad that it's good comes about in a couple different ways. So one is that you can have a film that has heart and intention, and it wanted to be really good, or at least sort of a comic representation of something, but comes off as some lines are just unintentionally funny and just goes along with that. That's where Dungeons and Dragons falls in, because Dungeons and Dragons it attempts to take certain things seriously, but because of the circumstances and just, it's mainly the actors with that film that really shove it home. And there also has to be an undercurrent of it's actually enjoyable to watch, which makes the key of when does the film go from so bad that it's good to so bad that it's atrocious, is when it becomes just unfun to watch. So let me step back for a second. So bad that it's good is Samurai Cop. If you've never seen Samurai Cop, I recommend that you go find either an online version or something like that, or at least just YouTube some of the scenes from that film, because it was intended as sort of a comedy spoof of oh, Kelvin, how you doing? Comedy spoof of Lethal Weapon films, which are already a reasonably amusing take on the whole buddy cop genre, and added a little more humor to those style of films, which is already a humorous sort of dilemma of stuff. Anyways, Samurai Cop is famous for its just sort of strange, out of place acting weird scripting and weird line reading and stuff like that, but just makes it into this amalgamation of so strange and so unintentionally funny that it is amazing to watch. And that is, it was made with intention and heart and just sort of getting by on a, we want to do this, but we can only do this within a certain amount of budget kind of film. So that's one vein. There's also a sub-vein to that, which is the film that is, we just want to make a movie about stuff, but we don't have the budget, so just cut all the corners. And it's the aspect of cutting all the corners that makes it funny, because it's the poor acting because you can't hire really good actors. It's the poor, just both voice acting and general physical acting. It also has the problem of poor audio recording and poor video and just all around just not good stuff, but it's just amusing to watch at sort of, it's the aspect of it's a train wreck, so it's hard to look away. Birdemic Shock and Terror, if you want a great example of that. That film is atrocious, but I would still love to watch it, even though it would be kind of a waste of my time, just to see how horribly put together that film is. But that's another example of it. I'm trying to think of, and then like there's sort of the Asylum approach, which, if you don't know, Asylum is a company that just generally makes bad films. Like they're responsible for giant squid versus Crocosaurus versus giant squid, or whatever the hell it's called. They're also responsible for the Sharknado films, which they are intentionally made to be shitty films, and like they use poor CGI and poor acting and cardboard actors and stuff like that. So, and they really generate off of, when is something else coming off? Can we ride its coattails, or can we drum up enough social media for this film? So, anyway, stuff around Sharknado. So, I've seen all three Sharknado films. Sharknado 1 is the best example of a film that is so bad that it's good, because it was intentionally made for that purpose. Because it has the right amount of campiness in all of its aspects. The right amount of poor quality CGI, right amount of goofy craziness, and just right amount of all the important essentials to make these. Oh, this ain't great. Zombie, no! So just right amount of everything that was needed. Anyways, so with that, god damn it. Oh, excellent. It's entertaining and it's worth a watch. However, as for its Bad Spider, no, its sequels, Sharknado 2 is Sharknado 2's problem is that its best moment occurs at the 5-minute mark in and the 5-minute mark out. So the first 5 minutes and the last 5 minutes are the best parts of the film, because in the first 5 minutes you have one of the most campy, amazing reactions I have ever seen. I'm gonna bone this creeper good. Get boned! Get boned! Or just blow up, for fuck's sakes. Good lord. Well, this is the most amazing fight scene ever. Blow up! For fuck's sakes, man, blow up! There you go. Finally. Yeah. Sharknado 2, its best part is within the first 5 minutes. And fuck, I'll spoil it because it does not lose its genuine awesomeness for what happens. So, the opening bit of Sharknado 2 is our hero main protagonist, Finn, is on a plane flying back to New York for some reason. I forget. I think it's because he's supposed to be talking about, like, something or meeting somebody. I don't know. It's really irrelevant because nobody actually follows the fucking story in this plot, because it all devolves to the same thing of there's a Sharknado, we need to destroy it somehow, and then they string it along for a while doing random shit. Anyways, so he's on a plane flying back to New York. Suddenly a Sharknado, or rather Sharkstorm, hits that plane, and at one point there's a hole punched in the plane, and Finn for some reason is in the front of the cabin, and by that hole we have this incredible, amazing, super close-up of the stewardess screaming, cut to the poorest looking CGI shark fly through one hole in the plane, grab her, and fly out the other side of the plane. Now, that doesn't sound very funny, but if you can find just that scene, I recommend it highly. Also, the final section of the film is using the Empire State Building to skewer a shark, which, it's okay. Like, eh. The problem is the rest of the movie is padding and is utterly unentertaining. The key with films like these is that for it to be entertaining and at least watchable, you have to sparse that stuff out. You have to put it to in amongst everything else. You have to parse all the good bits of just, oh no, there's sharks, in amongst everything else. However, this movie has a problem doing that, and saves it all for as I said, the first 5 minutes and the last 5 minutes. Anyways, so Sharknado 3, with the subtitle of Oh Hell No, does a slightly better job, but it's still boring, and really is, this time around, and it's also a clear problem with the second film, is that because of the hubbub and, like, power and commotion of the first film, they got a little more of a budget, and honestly, that does not service these films properly. The best thing for these films is to have the lowest budget possible, so they have to, like, reuse poor quality stock footage and stuff like that. Like, that's my favorite part of Sharknado 1, is seeing deep sea stock footage of sharks while they are in maybe tire deep water on a freeway. It is honestly my favorite part of that film. So it does slightly better. We have a little more of that essence of the original camp. Probably the best scene in the film is, so partway through, we re-meet a couple characters. So we reconnect with the character, one of the characters we met in the first film, which is Nova, which is the assistant in Finn's bar, and she is really attracted to him, Yet he is getting back together with his wife. Anyway, so we encounter her. She continues to have a problem with wearing a shirt for some fucking reason. I don't know why. And she is traveling around in this armored motorhome designed to with the one and only. I can't remember the exact the actor's name. I will probably put it right here in the video. But she is traveling around with the guy who plays Malcolm in Malcolm in the Middle. So let me lay something out. If you haven't seen Malcolm in the Middle, do, because it's probably one of the best sort of mid-teen sitcoms I've ever watched, because it's really entertaining. You get to see Bryan Cranston before he was Walter White, and it's quite amusing. But it's amazing because I bet the producers of Sharknado 3 knew people had seen this guy only in Malcolm in the Middle, because his character is pretty much identical to Malcolm. Like, he has the same mannerisms, except for slightly more crazy in his, like, delivery and stuff. There's a sequence where he has to explain to Finn that the bridge is out. He could just say, yeah, we can't go over the bridge. It's kind of, well, gone. But he does this weird thing where, like, he opens his eyes up really wide and looks in it and is like, we can't go over the bridge, and he moves his hand like a dolphin or some fucking shit. It gave me a good chuckle. Anyways, at one point, and I forgot to say, spoilers territory, but I don't know who's going to be very angry if I spoil this film for them. Anyways, Finn, Nova, and Malcolm all get to a military base because they're going to use a fighter jet to get to Universal Orlando, where the rest of Finn's family is, because that's where they need to go, because he wants to get back to his family and make sure they are safe. Anyways, so they get there. Nova and Finn hop in the jet, because apparently, for some reason, some uncontrived reason, Nova has fighter jet training. And at the same time, Malcolm goes back to the armored mobile home and proceeds to enact what I believe is sort of a failsafe to use this thing as essentially a bomb and detonate and kill as many sharks in the approaching Sharknado as possible. So, on his way back, we get the most campy, amazing scene this film has to offer, which is watching poorly CGI'd sharks bite off each of his limbs slowly for about maybe 2 or 3 minutes. And it is the most amazing thing in the world to watch. Because the problem is, when you do stuff like this, and you lose your limbs, but if you don't have reality practical prop effects to go with it, you just have to sort of react to CGI that isn't there. So this weird concoction of screaming and facial reaction and hobbling along is probably the best part of the entire film. Besides that, there are a couple other bits, but once again, it suffers from the problem that the second film had, and it just drags out and it's boring. Like, how a film entitled Sharknado can be boring is beyond me, but they accomplish it. It is spectacularly boring at points. The worst, any scene that Tara Reid is in. Good Lord, woman. How you get acting gigs, I don't know. Like, to her credit, and not trying to be mean or anything, but if people are picking her because she's attractive, she's not that attractive. Like, you could get much better actresses who can at least act a little better, who are at least as, if not more, attractive than her. But just her cardboard cutout performance, no matter what scene she's in, she has the same facial and emotional reaction to everything. Pardon me. For a moment here. That's better. Anyways. So, my recommendation around that is just watch the first one, maybe watch a couple clips from the third one. Don't invest, because both 2 and 3, 2 I think is longer. 2 is like 2 hours or something. 3 is like nearly 2 hours. And honestly, the best parts are just certain clips. Whereas my other film that I watched, Dungeons and Dragons, was entertaining the entire way through. Because you have this weird... So, once again, going back to, is there an art form to creating bad films? There is and there isn't. Because the best bad films, in my opinion, are the films that are... They were supposed to be really good, but then they unintentionally become so bad that they're good. Because they're either unintentionally funny at points, or they're just, there are certain things about them that the creators were blind to see, and just didn't understand. Like, they believed their production was really good, but then, but they only got the input of just people around them. They weren't listening to other people going, well, you know, you might want to change some things about this, like, or that, or whatever. Dungeons and Dragons is, I believe, sort of that, because I don't think they had too much of an idea of believing that this wasn't good, because, so we have our CGI that is okay for the time. Like, it's not very good, and the one of the best parts is, the copy that I rented was, on the front of it, it is claimed as a, classic from New Line Cinema. Ironically, 2 years later, this was the film company that created the Lord of the Rings films. Of course, first one was Fellowship. But still, to call this a masterpiece in anything is a joke. Because CGI is okay, but we had way better stuff at this point. Like, even CGI on a budget, this did not look good. And it kind of adds to it, but not really. Anyways, so that's one thing that sort of messes with it and makes it a little amusing to see. The other is the actors. Because we have some of the most interesting actors I have ever seen. So let's run down the list. So we have, our main villain is the wizard Profion, or Profiod. I think it's Profiod. Played by Jeremy Irons. I don't know a whole lot about Jeremy Irons, but Jeremy Irons in this film, there's overacting, and then there's Jeremy Irons, who I swear must have caused most of the camera people to go into fits of laughter, because he is so over the top and so into this character that at times, and phrasing off one of my favorite YouTube creators, the Nostalgia Critic, at times it looks like he shit himself then suddenly realized he's okay with it and just keeps going with the performance. He is an amazing riot to watch. If you want a juxtaposition, think of Tim Curry in Stephen King's miniseries It. Just, it's amazing to watch him go. But on the other side, you also have this, there's the character of the Empress, who is played by, I don't even know what the fuck her name is, but she is the most wooden actress I have ever seen. She is probably worse than Tara Reid, because she is so bland and so boring. But the thing is that it's so juxtaposition to Irons, who has to have a verbal duel with. It is amazing. So those are our two of our characters. Then we have our three leads, who are, I'm going off their character names. I can't remember. One of them, oh god, I'm annoyed that I can't remember these names. So we have our two unlikely heroes, Renly and Snails. And then we have our slightly sexy, but in a nerdy, sexy way, sorceress lady. Oh, what the fuck is her name? God damn it. Anyways, they're all like decent, but they're all hammy in their own way. Snails is the best because of just all the random fucking noises he makes when he's talking to Renly, and just the random pitches of his voice. Renly's just sort of a mid-range actor, but he's got some good, amusing lines where he goes a little over the top. Same with Sorceress Woman. But the best, the additional to the, so what is the middle ground between Iron's super overacting and the Empress's underacting, is this weird medium, which is our secondary villain. Fuck, what is his name? Whatever. Irons is second in command, this really imposing guy, bald guy, who for some reason has blue lipstick on the entire film. It's never explained. It's never referenced. Nobody ever even makes a joke off of it. It's like it's natural or something. But he is this weird concoction of, he's got overacting, but he downplays it because he like whispers his lines and speaks really slowly. I don't know if he was directed to do that so that he would be more menacing, but it's actually amazingly funny to watch. So, yeah, honestly, is there an art form to making poor films? There is and there isn't. The best, my favorite, best of the worst, so bad that it's good, is films that have heart and have intention and just come off as unintentionally funny and just sort of, oh, we didn't want to make a comedy out of this, but we sort of accidentally did with our casting and stuff like that. You can make it as, we have no budget, we're just going to string this along and see what happens. Birdemic is the best explanation of that, because that film is atrocious, but it is a riot to watch just for all its faults. And then you have films like The Asylum, which are intentionally made to be, every now and again they're good, but it's better when they are made by sort of independent directors and stuff like that. Like, I'm pretty sure Birdemic is not a production of like Asylum or anything like that. That was made by like some college guys or stuff like that, just wanting to do an amusing like film, and just played it as wooden as possible. However, there can be films that are just so tempting to be this that they come off as bad. Sharknadoes 2 and 3 fall into this category. There is also another film called The Amazing Bulk, which I have not watched, but I watched the Best of the Worst review of it, and what I can tell is that is so painful and so atrocious to watch that it is bad to the point of, oh god, how did this come to be? So, yeah. In closing, go watch all those. Like, there are definitely lists online of the best so bad it's good films. Troll 2. If you can get your hands on it, Gymkata, which is pretty cool. It's a concept of essentially this. I think he's United States Olympic gymnast is asked to be in an acting role to essentially use his style of gymnastics as if it was combat. So, Troll 2, Gymkata, Birdemic, Shock and Terror. I don't know about its sequel because it somehow got a sequel. I don't know how good that is. I'd really like to see how good / bad it is. Samurai Cop is the top of this. Same vein as that is a film called Hard Ticket to Hawaii. There are lots of these within the 80s and 80s, 90s range of these horrible action films that were just sort of made at the same time as other major films and made to sort of parody them. But instead of being funny for that, they are unintentionally funny for other reasons. So there's all those. Definitely films like Dungeons and Dragons, which are supposed to be taken seriously, but end up being really funny because of their just because they're actors and their line work. But and yeah, and then just stay away from stuff that is just contrived to essentially be so bad that it's good, but they force it, and it's bad. In closing, there is slightly an art form to it, but my favorite parts are when it isn't supposed to be bad. It's supposed to be taken seriously. So those are the best films. Anyways, that's closing off that.